My wife said it was for her sister's surgery. $12,000 gone in 2 clicks. She cried, said I was cruel for asking questions. But late one night, I traced the account, found her ex's name tied to a fake clinic behind a gas station. I canceled every payment, every promise. I thought that was the betrayal. But then the health board called me and told me what she signed under. I always thought betrayal would feel like thunder, loud, sudden, impossible to ignore. But mine started with a whisper. "Tom," Sarah said one night over dinner, her eyes glassy. "I need to tell you something. It's about Cynthia." That name, her sister's, was enough to make me put my fork down. I had a soft spot for Cynthia. She was never dramatic, never asked for anything. So when Sarah said the word surgery, I leaned in. She said Cynthia had a condition, ovarian cysts. Something serious, private treatment, time sensitive. But she's too proud to ask for help, Sarah whispered. She doesn't even want anyone to know. Then came the line that cracked everything. We need to give her the $12,000. Not lend, not part of it. All of it. $12,000, our full savings, 2 years of late-night shifts and weekend side jobs. That money wasn't for a vacation. It was for our garage expansion. My garage. My dream of turning my small 2-bay into a full restoration shop. I didn't say no. Not at first. Instead, I asked questions. When? What doctor? Why not use insurance? She got defensive. Said I was making her feel guilty. Said I didn't trust her. Then she started crying. Hard. Said I didn't care about family. I hate tears. Not because they bother me, but because I'm the kind of guy who fixes things. Engines, transmissions, people's stress with a well-timed joke. But this? I couldn't fix it. So I folded. I nodded. And the next day, she transferred the entire $12,000 from our joint savings to a private care account. That should have been the end of it. But here's the thing. When you've been under hoods long enough, you know the sound of something not firing right. That feeling that something just doesn't add up. That same weekend, I noticed she was different. Calmer. Not worried. She didn't check her phone obsessively. Didn't call Cynthia once. She smiled more, like a weight was gone. And Cynthia? No text. No thank you. No update. Nothing. Monday morning, I asked how her sister was doing. She's resting, Sarah said quickly. Doesn't want to talk to anyone. It didn't sit right. So I did something I hadn't done since we opened the joint account. I logged in. And that's when I saw it. The payment hadn't gone to Cynthia. It went to a business account under the name Pierce Aesthetic. Ventures Aesthetic? I clicked deeper. The address was listed under a strip mall 2 towns over. The business owner's name? Dr. Adrian Pierce. I froze. That name wasn't unfamiliar. It was the name Sarah used to mumble when she talked about her past, her ex, the one she swore she had no contact with for years. Suddenly the tears, the urgency, the guilt, it all made sense. It wasn't a medical emergency. It was a cover-up. And I didn't blow up. I didn't scream. I didn't call her out. I just stared at that transaction, knowing I was staring at something worse than theft. It was betrayal, dressed like compassion, and I was going to find out exactly how deep it went, but I wouldn't ask her. I'd let the paper trail talk first. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to her, Sarah, while her breathing rose and fell like nothing had shifted. But everything had. I replayed the moment she'd cried in front of me, voice cracking, saying we were doing the right thing, that we were helping family. Meanwhile, $12,000 of my sweat, my calloused hands, my overtime, had gone to the man she used to sleep with. The next morning, I woke up early, skipped coffee, and went straight to the garage. I didn't tell anyone what was happening, not yet. But I pulled out my old laptop and started digging. Pierce Aesthetic Ventures LLC. It sounded fake, too polished for a back alley scam, but it was real. Registered 2 years ago. Owner, Dr. Adrian Pierce, MD, licensed in general medicine, not plastic surgery. The website was all flash, stock images, slogans like, "Confidence begins with a new you," and no actual credentials, no clinic photos, no customer reviews. But the address listed. A rented space behind a tanning salon off Highway 24. I called the number. A woman answered, said they were booked for months. I asked what procedures they offered. Botox, fillers, Jawline contouring, non-invasive aesthetic enhancement. When I asked about medical licensing, she hung up. It was a scam, or at least, a barely legal cash grab, and Sarah had sent him everything we had. I didn't know if it was an affair or just financial betrayal, but it didn't matter. My instinct told me to confront her, to hold up the screen and yell, "Explain this." But I've learned from years of fixing broken things. If you confront a cracked frame too early, it splinters worse. So I waited. That night I told her I was thinking of checking in on Cynthia. She froze for half a second. Just enough. No, she doesn't want visitors yet. Still recovering, she said, too quickly. Right, of course, I replied. She offered me dessert after dinner. Peach cobbler. She never makes cobbler. Meanwhile, I pulled every bank statement from the last 6 months. That wasn't the only transfer. 2 months ago, there was a $600 wire to the same account, marked consultation deposit. A few weeks later, $2,500, then $900, then $12,000. It was premeditated, a build-up. She didn't just lie once, she planned it. Groomed me with smaller lies until I wouldn't blink at the big one. I called a friend, Marcus, who used to work at a credit union before joining the Army. Told him I needed help understanding how to follow transactions through LLCs. He said he'd get back to me. By now, I was showing up to the garage early and leaving late, under the excuse of holiday demand. Truth was, I didn't want to be in the same house. Every time I looked at her, I didn't see my wife. I saw a stranger rehearsing lines. Then the moment that snapped something inside me. Friday night. She was on the couch, phone in hand, smiling at something. I glanced over. Her phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in over a year, Adrian P. I asked who it was. She didn't flinch. Oh, it's just a client from my old job. Needs help with marketing. She turned the phone over. Line number 8, maybe 9. I nodded and went to bed. But that night, I locked down our finances, froze the joint card, pulled everything into a personal account, changed passwords, canceled the automatic transfer she didn't think I noticed. Then I set an appointment with a lawyer. I told him everything, showed him the records, the paper trail, the company info. He leaned back and said, "This is fraud, especially if she's knowingly transferring money to a business under false pretenses. If her name's connected in any way, she's looking at more than just divorce." I didn't even blink at the word divorce, because at that point, I knew this wasn't about a marriage anymore. It was about survival. And if Sarah thought I was the kind of man who'd get emotional and beg her for the truth, she forgot who she married. I don't scream. I document. And the next thing I planned to do was bring every lie she told into daylight, where even she couldn't deny the damage. By Monday morning, I had a folder on my desktop labeled Proof. Not for court. Not yet. But for myself. Every line item, every timestamp, every transaction Sarah hoped I wouldn't notice. I saw it all. My lawyer said, "If she's been funneling money to a business under fraudulent pretense and you didn't give full consent, you've got grounds for both civil and criminal action." I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted. But I kept digging. I went back through old photos. Sarah and I had been married almost 3 years. Somewhere between anniversaries and oil changes, I'd stopped checking her phone, her tone, her stories. But now I remembered an old pic she posted on Facebook, captioned, "Weekend escape with the girls." Except in the reflection of the glass behind her, there was a man. I zoomed in. Tan skin, surgical scrubs, a white coat tossed over a chair. Adrian. The same weekend she said Cynthia had a breakdown. The same weekend she asked for $900 for therapy. It wasn't just a lie, it was layered. She'd built an entire narrative to manipulate sympathy, and she used Cynthia's name to cover it. That's when I decided to call Cynthia. We hadn't spoken in 6 months. I kept it casual. Asked how she was doing. She said she was great, had just gotten back from a yoga retreat in Colorado. I asked about her procedure. Silence. "What procedure?" she asked, genuinely confused. My stomach dropped. "Sarah said you had to go through surgery," I said. She laughed. "Tom, what? I've never even had stitches." I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the wall of the break room. The hum of a half-dead vending machine filled the silence. Sarah hadn't just lied to me. She'd weaponized her sister's name, made me the villain for hesitating, when the whole time I was being conned. That night, I logged into our shared laptop, went through her email. I'd never done that before. But now I wasn't a husband. I was a detective in a house of polished lies. Buried in the drafts folder was a message never sent. Got the last transfer. You should have enough for the new unit. Just remember, we're both risking a lot. Don't let this backfire. It was dated 3 weeks before she asked me for the $12,000. It was premeditated. The next morning, Marcus texted me. Got something. We met at the garage. He handed me a file. Inside were screenshots of a forum where Adrian's clinic had been flagged, twice for injecting expired filler. A woman even mentioned seeing a brunette in the waiting room who handled the money. I showed him a picture of Sarah. He nodded. That's her. I went back to my lawyer. He looked at the evidence, then said the words I'd been avoiding. She's complicit. You're not just dealing with a marital issue anymore, this is fraud. And conspiracy. The rage didn't come. Not then. What came instead was focus, because when someone drains your savings and betrays your trust, the worst thing you can do is lash out. The smartest thing you can do is build your case in silence. Sarah didn't know I knew. She still kissed my cheek in the mornings, still made coffee, still played the role of loving wife. And I let her. Because the next time we talked about money, it wouldn't be in our kitchen. It would be in front of people she never expected to find out. I was back under the hood of a '68 Mustang when Caleb tapped my shoulder. You all right, man? You've been tightening bolts that are already tight. I nodded. Just tired. He narrowed his eyes. Still about the 12 grand? I glanced around, then pulled him to the side. I hadn't told anyone, not really, but I needed someone who wouldn't talk, someone who knew what silence was worth. So I laid it all out. The fake medical emergency, the money trail to Adrian, the unsent email, Cynthia's yoga trip. Caleb didn't speak for a full minute. Then he said, Jesus. I nodded. I'm not even mad anymore, I just want it done right. We hatched a plan over coffee and brake pads. I'd keep playing dumb, keep letting Sarah think everything was normal. Meanwhile, Caleb would help me collect evidence, discreetly, calls to former clients of Adrian's, check-ins with medical boards, anything that might tighten the noose. That weekend, Sarah went out of town. Helping Cynthia move, she claimed. I knew better. I waited 2 hours, then drove out to the strip mall where Pierce Aesthetic Ventures was listed. It looked like a place you'd avoid at night. Faded signage, dusty windows. But the lights were on. I parked across the lot and waited. At 7:47 p.m., a black Lexus pulled up. Sarah stepped out, wearing a blazer, heels, her professional look. She knocked twice, then let herself in without ringing. I took photos, time-stamped, then texted them to my lawyer. The next morning, I watched her re-enter the house with the same lie on her lips. Cynthia's doing great, just emotional. I nodded. Glad you were there for her. She kissed my cheek. The audacity made me want to scream. Instead, I smiled. Later that week, Marcus called again. Said Adrian's medical license had expired for any cosmetic practice. His general license was active, but limited, meaning his aesthetic clinic was technically operating under false representation. Even better, there were 3 pending complaints in the system, including one from a woman who suffered facial paralysis. I looped in my lawyer. He said we were nearing the tipping point, but we needed one last push. So I asked Caleb to help me set up a meeting with a few mutual friends, people Sarah respected, people she lied to with ease, assuming they'd never question her. We chose Friday night, a casual hangout, beers and burgers in the garage. But this time, I'd be showing more than engine parts. Friday came. The garage smelled like grease and burnt coffee. We had 5 friends over, people from Sarah's side of the circle. She thought it was a surprise birthday party for me, so she dressed up, brought cake, and smiled wide. When she saw who was there, she paused. What's going on? I handed her a folder. What's this? Everything, I said. Everything you thought I'd never notice. She laughed, nervously. Tom, come on, this is ridiculous. But I didn't flinch. Inside the folder were screenshots of the bank transfers, records of Adrian's clinic, and expired licenses. Her unsent email, a statement from Cynthia denying the medical emergency. The photo of her entering Adrian's clinic at 7:47 p.m. One friend looked at her. You said Cynthia had cancer. She turned red, then white, then silent. Say it, I said quietly. Tell them the truth. She looked at me like I'd stabbed her. And maybe, in a way, I had. Because for liars, exposure is pain, and this was just the beginning. The next morning, the silence in the house was weaponized. She didn't slam doors, she didn't yell. She just moved around me like I was air, like I didn't exist. But I wasn't expecting her to vanish into shame. No, Sarah was never one to go quietly. And I was right. 2 days later, at exactly 11:13 a.m., she showed up at my workplace. It was a Saturday. We had a few clients in the garage. One of them, Mrs. Delaney, was picking up her vintage Corvette. Another guy, Troy, was hanging around just to chat about carburetors. Then Sarah's car screeched into the lot like a movie scene. She got out, heels, hair perfect, red blazer, and slammed the door behind her. "Tom!" she screamed. Everyone turned. I wiped my hands, walked out from under the lifted charger I'd been working on. She stormed straight up to me, her voice already cracking from rage. "You're going to ruin my life because of your ego?" I said nothing. "You froze my accounts. You made me look like a liar to my own friends. You humiliated me." "You are a liar," I said calmly, folding the rag in my hands. "And I didn't humiliate you. I just stopped covering for you." She laughed, a bitter sound that echoed through the garage. "Oh, so now you're the hero? Mr. Perfect Mechanic with his moral compass? You stole from me." "I didn't steal," she shouted. "I helped someone. I believed in Adrian." Her voice faltered. She realized what she'd just confessed. In front of witnesses, Mrs. Delaney dropped her car keys. "You believed in what, Sarah?" I said louder now. Not for her, but for everyone around us. "You sent $12,000 to your ex-boyfriend's illegal cosmetic operation. You lied about your sister needing surgery. You used my name on a shared account. You used me. I thought we were building a future," she snapped. "But all you care about is your damn garage and your tools." "No," I said. "I cared about us. But now I'm building something that won't lie to me." She looked around, realizing there were now 6 people watching, phones out, cameras rolling. Then she tried to spin it. "He's controlling," she shouted. "He checks my phone, he tracks my accounts, he doesn't trust me." I reached under the counter, pulled out a sealed envelope and handed it to her. "Here," I said. "Your copy of the police report." Her face drained. "You filed a report?" she whispered. "No," I said coldly. "I filed 3. 1 for the stolen funds, 1 for wire fraud, and 1 for aiding an unlicensed medical operation." The wind went out of her, and before she could spin it again, I turned to my crew. "She's not welcome here anymore," I said flatly. "Next time she shows up, call the cops." And then I walked away. That night, I heard from Caleb. Adrian's clinic got raided, he said over the phone. 2 patients came forward, the board's launching a full investigation. And guess what? They found her name listed as an operational partner. She was more than just involved, she was in it. Meanwhile, Sarah's parents started calling. Her mom left a voicemail crying, begging me not to ruin her daughter's life. Her father offered to pay me back in installments. I didn't answer. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about truth, respect, dignity. And I was done letting anyone buy my silence. It took less than a week for the media to pick up the story. Not about me, not directly, but about Dr. Adrian Pierce, the self-titled aesthetic healer, whose side business turned out to be an unlicensed front for illegal cosmetic procedures. The words unauthorized injections, fraudulent billing, and health code violations were plastered across headlines. Buried in the fine print was another name, Sarah Pierce, listed as an administrative coordinator and partial funder. That's how I learned she was still using his last name for business purposes. The court summons arrived on a Wednesday. My lawyer called me before it even hit my mailbox. She's being indicted on financial conspiracy and aiding an unlicensed operation, he said. Not jail, yet, but probation and restitution are on the table. She's lawyering up. I nodded. Let her. The truth was, by this point, I didn't need revenge. I'd already won. But Sarah wasn't finished. Her parents showed up at my house the next night. Not together, separately. Her dad first, pacing like a man whose world was caving in. She made a mistake, he said. She thought she was investing in something real. I didn't even open the screen door. She stole $12,000 and gave it to her ex. Lied about her own sister being sick. She was manipulated. She manipulated me first. Then came her mom, teary-eyed and holding a checkbook. We'll pay it all back, Tom. Every cent. I looked her dead in the eye. It was never about the money, It was about what she turned into and who she expected me to be while she did it. They left without another word. 2 days later, the restitution hearing happened. Sarah showed up in a beige suit, minimal makeup, looking more like a school teacher than the woman who used to laugh at my greasy hands after work. Her lawyer pleaded for leniency, claiming she was duped by Adrian and acted under emotional manipulation. I handed over my file of evidence. It was over an inch thick. The judge took 15 minutes to deliberate. Then she spoke words I'll never forget. "You weren't emotionally manipulated, Ms. Pierce. You were a knowing accomplice. Restitution of $12,000 is granted. You'll also be placed under probation for 18 months. Sarah cried as the bailiff explained her travel restrictions. But what broke her wasn't the judge. It was the courtroom itself, half filled with our former mutual friends, people who used to share wine nights and birthday brunches, people who had watched her scream at me in public, lie to their faces, and now they watched her squirm beneath fluorescent lights in legal terms. I didn't say a word the entire time. After the ruling, I stood up, buttoned my coat, and walked out. She called my name once, quietly. No venom this time, just a whisper of what used to be. I didn't turn around. Instead, I went home, pulled the tarp off the rusted-out 1970 Chevelle I'd been meaning to restore since the day we got married. It was time to rebuild something honest, something made of steel and not secrets. The day I picked up the Chevelle, it felt like breathing. For the first time in months, faded red paint, bent front grille, no ignition spark. It was perfect, because like me, it was bruised, but still standing. I towed it home myself. Parked it front and center in the garage where Sarah once posed for engagement photos. I didn't touch those frames. I just turned them face down and got to work. Every bolt I loosened, every rusted panel I sanded down, it felt like therapy. My lawyer called, said the restitution check from Sarah's parents had cleared. $12,000 even. I could have framed it. Instead, I deposited it and never looked back. A week later, I donated half to Restore Hope, a real medical nonprofit that helps low-income patients get access to real care, not backroom injections. The rest I used to stock the garage with fresh gear, new tools, and a fresh neon sign that read, "No apologies, just repairs." It became the motto of my life. Then came the knock. Saturday morning, grease on my hands, music on low. It was Sarah, not dressed up, no makeup, just a sweatshirt, sneakers, and eyes I barely recognized. I wanted to see it, she said quietly. The garage. The car. I didn't invite her in. She stood at the threshold, staring at the Chevelle. "You're really doing it." "I was always going to. You just didn't believe in it." Silence. Then, "I didn't know how to tell you I missed him. Adrian. I never stopped missing him, and I guess I used you to fill that space." I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. "You used me to fund that space." She flinched. "I'm sorry. I'm not," I said. "I'm not sorry I found out. I'm not sorry I took everything to court. And I'm not sorry that you're finally facing the consequences." She looked like she wanted to cry. I didn't offer her a tissue. Instead, I stepped aside, not to let her in, but to let her pass. Goodbye, Sarah. That night, I hosted a soft opening at the garage. Not a full launch, just friends, neighbors, people who'd stood by when things got ugly. They asked about the car, the court case, even Sarah. I just said, "She taught me something important." "What's that?" Caleb asked. I lifted a wrench, tapped it against the frame. "That I build better things with metal than with people who lie." Everyone laughed. I smiled for real. And when the shop lights dimmed and the garage emptied out, I stayed behind. Just me, the Chevelle, and the quiet hum of freedom. I had grease under my nails, steel in my spine, and not 1 cent left that wasn't mine. Not stolen. Not borrowed. Not begged for. And for the first time in years, I slept through the night without checking who was lying beside me.